So yeah, thanks so much everyone for coming, and thank you to Machina and to the Elevator Sound crew for getting all of this together. I really feel honoured to be asked to host this panel, the panel of our dreams. Yeah, I'm sure I'm really not the only person that feels really lucky to be able to hear everyone speak today. Hopefully Sam's joining us soon. We'll keep an eye out. Is that maybe on the horizon? We'll see. So yeah, I'll just quickly introduce myself. So I'm Jasmine Butt. I'm part of Bristol Communal Modular, a DIY synth group here in Bristol that operates out of Bristol Hackspace around the corner. And I'm also doing some research at UE in Bristol around analog film practices, so specifically looking into optical sound on film, so early sound on film in early cinema. And I also use some tape in my practice when I'm doing live performance and release music on tape as well. But without further ado, I think we should start having a chat. I think I did see a silhouette of Sam, but we'll just hope he turns up. So yeah, I think to start it would be really nice to maybe talk about the formative experiences you had of tape and kind of what got you hooked on working with the medium. And if we can start with you, Stefan.
Tape, when I grew up, was a necessity, and I was not necessarily a fan of it because for making music it was the hissy thing, the noisy thing, and it was just when practicing with a band, put up the recorder, record with the internal microphone, maybe later put up like a mixer to the tape deck and record. Still, it sounded like a cassette. It sounded noisy, it sounded bad. And I didn't really like that sound at all because that was the sound of cheap. That was the sound of, that's all you can afford at the time. And when the first digital recording came around on mini disc, wow, there's no hiss, amazing. It was so good. But today I turned completely the other way. I love the artifacts of tape. For the past week, I've been hanging out in Ramsgate with Sam, who'll hopefully find this place at some point. And the hotel where I was had these whisper-thin walls. So I could hear everything. And to combat that, I put on a little bit of noise. And the noise is from an instrument that I made called Noises. And I made this patch 3 years ago. It's called Sleepy Time for Sound Guy. And it's basically the sound of the tape hiss of 8 different tape machines, and it slowly crossfades and warbles across them. And I put up the iPad as like an acoustic shield, and it does, let's see if the microphone picks that up. Just hissing stuff. Oh!
Hey, everyone. Okay. I'm glad I waited to do the intros. Hey, Sam. Oh, yeah, you're sharing, I'm afraid. That's right.
So I slept with the sound of the artifacts of tape for the past week, and that was beautiful. So that's how I turned from hating the artifacts to loving them.
So I guess the kind of modern high-tech recording, the silence is deafening, and now you're looking for the hiss. So now everyone's here. I actually forgot to do the intros at the start, so I'll do them now. So we're very lucky to be joined by, hey. So this is Sam, aka Look Mum No Computer. I'm sure many of you know who he is. So Sam is helping to demystify electronics through his videos of building mutant instruments. He also set up This Museum Is Not Obsolete in Ramsgate, which is dedicated to encouraging the continued use, is this right? And not just the archiving and preservation of historical electronics instruments, as well as new ones that you built. We're also very lucky to be joined by Hainbach, who is a composer, a performer, and a designer who uses tape extensively in his practice and has inspired many others to do the same. And we also have Jack of BeepBoop Electronics, our local hero, who, among many other things, designs Eurorite modules. And over the last few years, he's been holed up above elevator sounds, locked into this amazing endeavor of bringing tape into Eurorack modules.
Kind of squatting there, really.
Squatting, yeah, with the fire of Turbo Island coming, the smoke of Turbo Island coming through the windows. So not just in a kind of an interface metaphorical form, but bringing the mechanics of tape into Eurorack, which is very fascinating. So we just started talking of people's formative experiences of tape that got them hooked. And I think if we can go over to you, Jack, now.
Yeah, sure. So I guess being a little bit younger than yourself, like I experienced tape as a kid. I made mixtapes and I was always bouncing stuff off the radio, doing strange collages. My dad said when I gave him a mixtape not to give up the day job or whatever, but he wasn't quite sure what to make of it. But I kind of forgot about it for a long time. I rediscovered synth DIY at a point in my life where I really needed something to focus on, an outlet, and we've talked about it being quite a meditative practice. And kind of through that, I taught myself electronics, and I could go on and on, but my path then led me to repairs. And through doing that, I got to put my hands on equipment that I could only ever have dreamed of using. Sure, it came in broken, but it gave me the kind of impetus to get it fixed. And one day I saw, after working, I really started specialising on Roland because I could see the build quality in this stuff. It was made to be repaired, it was beautiful, it was solid. I saw a Space Echo broken on Facebook Marketplace. It was $2,500. It was the entirety of my overdraft, and I went and got it. And something special happened when I got that machine back to the workshop. I mean, I had no idea how I was going to fix that thing, but it happened, and it was like something guided me. The first thing I went to do was find a grounding point. No joke, the motor wasn't working. I went to find my grounding point. The whole thing came to life. The record, everything else was there, or even the tape was in there. Magical moment. And then since then, I've really appreciated how the technology has been forgotten, and I started doing tape loops as part of me doing workshops, with BeepBoop before I went strictly into just making them. Doing the workshop with you early on was fantastic over at Hackspace, and if anyone doesn't know about that, it's a great community project where people are sharing ideas and experience and skills. And I should get out more, but at the moment I'm completely committed to my path of kind of trying to take the technology from where it was, and just in the same way analog gear, electronics was forgotten, and when digital came in with synthesizers, I feel like there's a lot to be said for what's already been done. So that was what got me into it, and just seeing a Space Echo, that's what got me into it.
So it's the sort of the feedback mechanism of the Space Echo.
And thankfully I need to give him a shout out. Brad Hind, who was working with me, check out WD41. He does great work repairing different tape machines. But we made a very early prototype. He's got life commitments, he's got a family and responsibilities. I've managed to avoid those for the time being. So I've carried on, and that's where I am at the moment. Losing a lot of sleep trying to recreate the Space Echo in Eurorack.
And what about you, Sam? Did you start out in the world of repairs, or what kind of brought you to messing about with the guts of tape?
Tape. I don't know. I like Lego. The thing I like about tape and messing around with it and mucking around is the forgiving tolerances of messing with it. I find that the tolerances can be quite loose when you mess with it. Like setting up a tape loop. Like Stefan, he passes it around and says, "Hold on to my tape loop, please." And then he passes it around the stage and everybody's holding on to it. And the tensions, it doesn't have to work perfectly. And it's still doing it. It's working. It's a very forgiving format for messing about with, and I quite like that. You can get hold of a cassette, rip its innards out, wiggle around on a tape head, and it's already making music. Get some glue, play it all on the bottom. Who was it that made the remote control? Gieskis? Is he here today? Oh, he had a remote control car, tape head on the floor, just playing the music that was on the floor. Like, you could do a lot of things with tape. I mean, all you could do is just spray, get a bunch of iron filings, bit of PVA glue, paint it all on a bit of A4, get something like a tape player, pop it on it, and you're putting information down. It's just information on magnets. It's lovely.
Well, have you come across people who've been making their own like tape for putting in tape transports as well?
Sorry, I mean the only thing is I remember Tim Hunkin, who did The Secret Life of Machines. It's a TV program. Speaking to him, and he messes around with iron oxide with his mate Rex back in the 80s for the tea. Who's seen that? They've seen it. See Tim Hunkin being like, oh, you just get some iron filings and just rub it down. It's amazing. So you could make it from anything, Blue Peter style.
So I know you've all been inspired by old experiments, some of which have not really seen the light of day since they were invented and kind of were never made commercial. So I'd like to chat to you a bit about the kind of old inventions that have inspired you as well. Could we start off talking a little bit about the Crystal Palace? Because I know that you've both sort of built machines from that one.
Yeah, the Crystal Palace was a machine I read about. It was used by the BBC because they had a bunch of test tone generators and they wanted to find a way to combine them in interesting ways, because those things, they just go boop, and if another one goes boop, another one boop, and it takes a lot of hands to operate them to create something musical. So they created this multiplexer, and there's only 2 pictures that I've seen of it. How it looks and works is hard to get. How it works is hard to gather from that. But I thought, oh man, this would be so lovely to create this as a plugin. But then it would also be wonderful to have this in real life. And that's when I told you about this, and you got onto building a Crystal Palace. How did you go about that?
Well, I did. There was many ways I would have done it differently to the way I did it, but that's always the way, isn't it? The first time, it's like you make the stupidest mistakes. You look at it afterwards and you're like, why did I do it like that? It looks stupid. But basically, the Crystal Palace, the way I was thinking, it doesn't actually function this way, but it's how I did it, was so you ignore the tape and just jump from the tape record head to the tape play head and pretend the tape record head's the tape. Yeah. And then the tape record head's bouncing between all of the things. I mean, there's got to be a module already, or have you done it where there's literally a playhead and a record head?
We were talking about this feeds into the obsolescence stuff. So tape, I mean, we sadly have lost most of our manufacturing in this country, but I found a way to make a tape head. So ferrite, tortoidal ferrite bead, and I found ones that had a gap cut in it, wire wound it, and then I was able to induce, magnetic field from it. Got another head to test that it's passing the signal. Now, interesting things that happen. I'm going to try not to say the word too many times, but in the ether, the noise you were talking about earlier, we consider it random. At one point, we considered low-frequency electromagnetic radiation from the universe as noise, and then they saw the pattern and were able to interpret it as the background radiation from the Big Bang. It's random on one level, but on another, it's not. And these strange interactions, you're talking about accidents. Some of the tape machines, sometimes the gain, I've fucked the gain on the replay circuit, and it starts going into parasitic oscillation, and then the bias signals start to interact. Maybe I've got 2 bias signals, one from the erase, one for the record, and before you know it, bizarre stuff starts happening. But messing around with tape heads can be a lot of fun. Just using it as a way of passing the signal. I mean, we understand the model of magnetism, but really it's just magic, isn't it? It's passing through the ether.
The thing with that, the thing with the tape head directly onto the playhead as a means of making tape saturation straight into a module. I mean, it's already been done on those silly little tape things that you put in your car and you pop the iPlayer, MP3 player in it. That's just a tape head playing straight into it. But I said, so the Crystal Palace tape record head spins around onto a bunch of reed heads, so it acts as a tape multiplexer, then the outputs. However, they weren't actually record heads on the bottom. They were called ferrite cores with wire wound. Yeah. So it's basically it's a guitar pickup, which is basically a tape head as well. There's so many cross points. It's all electromagnetism.
And you can come back to reverbs as well then as well. Like, if you start exciting a metal plate with electromagnetic, you're going to start to get the tone of the material as well. I was talking to Vil from Acid Solder Club. I should have been preparing for the last 2 days, but we've literally just gone at chatting at each other, kind of like... I don't know, like Freud and Carl Jung. We just spent 2 days exhausting each other, but we matched each other's energy. It's like fire and fire. And we come to this really interesting idea of playing with the point with relays, just where it's between turning on and off. Can we influence it at audio rate? Something to mess around with. So it could be more that, this tape stuff, traditionally it's been used for recording a signal and playing it back, but it could be used for generating waveforms and like timbral sounds in its own right. Really cool. I have to check out that machine and the spinning heads because that sounds great. Yeah.
Sam, when you were designing it, you said that you didn't want to know how it worked. You wanted to look at a picture of it and then just sort of go off from there. Did you end up at a very different place from how it actually worked?
Yeah. Well, that's another thing I forgot is the actual Crystal Palace. I found out afterwards because a lot of people said it's not electromagnetic, it's electrostatic. So it's capacitance. So it's not tape. I mean, is there a capacitance tape? Does that work? You need a lot of voltage, but yeah, completely different function. I took the wrong conclusions when Hainbach showed us the pictures.
But is that something that you often do when you're kind of designing your instruments? So you don't want to dive into the manuals. You want to kind of go off piece from a sort of a blurry image or something you've got in your mind.
Oh, it's that for that situation, yeah. A lot of times, yeah. It's funner. I've got no patience, so sometimes that happens unless you're thoroughly obsessed.
And how was it to develop the plugin from the Crystal Palace? Because that must have been a really different sort of design process.
That was the hardest thing, was teaching people how to use sidechain in their digital audio workstation. Because every digital audio workstation handles sidechain differently, and then to implement it across all the platforms. So we decided to make it very simple. It was just 2 signals that you can combine, and then they flutter around each other, and it sounds beautiful. With the Crystal Palace, I think it was originally 6 sources, so you could combine 6 different sources, but trying to set up a 6-source sidechain is not possible across every digital audio workstation. So that's like you're working within a system where you have these potentially, you think you have limitless possibilities, but then when it comes to the nitty-gritty of bringing it across to everyone that it works everywhere flawlessly, you have to make these concessions. So it's just 2 signals that you can combine. And of course, if you want more, you can then do subgroups upon subgroups upon subgroups. But that's also something that, Ableton, they put it so lovingly how to use sidechain. If you employ the technique of sidechaining, you'll get more drink tickets, more gigs. Everybody will love you, to convince the people that learn this technique of sidechaining. And that shows that you need some convincing to why do I need sidechaining. So,
Yeah, it's a great way of auto-mixing loops as well. If you have the levels fight each other, out of the piece, then by just slowing down the loops, the way they control themselves with the side chain will change the whole composition. I had to jump in.
Because you were kind of talking about a lot of the time when you're using tape loops or drones, it's that lack of movement. Is that kind of what inspired the Thing motor? Is that
so the beautiful thing for me is that working with tape and test equipment kind of makes me a bit more stupid. So because I come from a point where I'd rather record like 50 tracks and then pick out the best. Now I come from the point where I have like 3 or 4 tracks and try to make those sound just that they work. So that's also my background in composing, where sometimes I just have like 2 notes and 3 seconds to set the tone for a scene. And these instruments and tape helped so much. And especially if you're working with tape loops, it's harder to go to like different key change with the tape loop. You need 2 basically, or you need a variable speed pitch shifter, but it's better to have actually 2 and then combine them and cross over. But it's a complicated process. So I ended up making much more minimal music than I ever did before, and that was good because my overacting brain was shut down by the sheer simplicity of the process. And one thing that I've noticed is now when I play, the effect of going to half speed, like when I play on the piano, is not as big anymore because I'm already playing at half speed. I'm playing slow. I play these calm, spread out chords. And when I half speed those, can kind of take it or leave it. So I've internalized that process.
Yeah, okay, that's really interesting. Like Steve Reich, kind of, where you're kind of learning from his phase tapes.
Yeah, phasing, I think, gonna rain.
Yeah. Do you also kind of feel that the automata of tape, so you're kind of, when you're working with it, you set the pendulum swinging and then it's off and you can kind of sit back from it, interact when you want, but how does that kind of, the agency of the machine and that sort of collaboration factor into your music making?
Well, every machine will have a character. We were talking, about artifacts, and often it's these imperfections which make something real. Even a diamond, chemically speaking, doesn't have a perfect structure. Perfection is an illusion. So, but it's a true analog of nature in a way that synthesizers are they're a clinical model sometimes, if you're just working from raw waveforms. If you dirty it up, that's where it starts becoming interesting. So having a machine that has a character and maybe has imperfections and limitations is the way I end up working with it. And sometimes you will let the thing do its thing, rather than trying to make a circle a square, let it be a circle and just let it evolve. And I've done these experiments in the room with multiple tape machines where they will slowly meander and dance between themselves, almost like chaotic behavior, but with steady states of repeating patterns. And these patterns we were talking about earlier, I think, are intrinsic to nature. The sine wave, for example, feedback is essential element of life. We're quite often taught in science A plus B equals C, but in fact C affects A again in most circumstances. It's not linear. So we start to see these patterns in nature and they resonate with us. There's a reason why listening to noise is beautiful, because it's fractal. It's the same on all levels. And so the tape machine, I think personally, is a better analog of nature than a synthesizer. And that's why, and you leave it and it will start dancing, yeah.
Strong words.
Yeah, well, I haven't mentioned God yet, so give me time.
See, you please.
I've got one thing about that. So one thing that I play with tape loops live, and you're going to see that later. Some of these have traveled with me now for 1.5, almost 2 years. And when I played them first, I remember I made them for a show in Utrecht. They sounded perfect. I use an Agra, and from W41 I've got this tape winder or a roller. So if that is set up correctly, it sounds perfect. When I played this, I thought, I could have just played a digital file because it just is wonderful, direct, clean, everything. But then I packed them up and I put them in a folder and traveled with them, flew to another place, took a train to another place. And in that process, the tapes get little kinks. And some of them are so worn, they are like a pair of trousers you've been wearing for a year while you're working. So some sounds almost disappear. The tape struggles. It gets stuck. And I love watching that process of my tape loop slowly degrading. And I don't want to replace them because I get attached to every little and sometimes it becomes rhythmical.
Yeah.
When we get a kink in there, it becomes like a gunk. And that's, now I have a kick drum. I never had that before. It's only going to come in once every 40 seconds, but that shall be enough.
Yeah.
That's, really... I feel like we're all kind of interested in when the iron starts flaking off the tape. And there's something really beautiful that happens in analog film when you start messing around with the emulsion on the film. So I was chatting to my friend James Holcomb, who runs Era One Film, about this. And when you put bleach and toner on the film, if it's wet when you do it and it slowly dries, there's these tidal, they're called chemical tides. So where the emotion and the lack of emotion meets, there's these like poolings of all of these chemicals, and there's like kind of weird, unexpected reactions that happen in this tidal boundary. And I'm wondering, for the more magnetically minded, if that kind of same type of like magnetic tide, these weird reactions is happening, especially when you punch out. So when you're using your U-tape, when you punch out the sound.
You know, the tape machines were used traditionally for record and playback, and we found ways to kind of, you know, abuse them. But what's interesting is that, you know, by going through this abuse, you start to see these strange things. I've been playing around with sound on sound, which, you know, has been done. But I came up with this method where I was erasing at audio rate. So my erase circuit, I'm turning it on and off at audio rate. And it started to punch gaps in the tape where it could then take new sounds. And this behavior was just absolutely bizarre. And it's interesting what you're saying. Like, maybe magnetism is a way of, you know, talking about these patterns in nature, and you give me like all sorts of ideas, because this fractal element, if we could find a way to use that for producing patterns. Hainbach, you were mentioning about how on a tape you might have these clips and pops and the rest of it. So something I've been doing in mine, what was it I was saying to a mate? When you've got lemons make gates, right? So out of my tape machine, you get a big bump from the splice. So now I'm using a comparator to take a gate off it. You know, these things that might from one perspective be seen as a problem can be the character and the thing that makes it a unique experience for making music and has its own life. Yeah.
I feel like there's always kind of the element of the unexpected as well, especially there's like a gap between the making. Sometimes when you're making tape loops, and you're not overdubbing, there's a gap between the kind of making, having the tape loop in your hand and hearing it, and there's always going to be a kind of unexpected element. I saw that in your videos with the rhythm loops, where there was like this kind of like joy and excitement. You never know the kind of rhythms that you're going to come out with. But does that often kind of have a place in your work, this sort of unexpected coincidences of not knowing what you're going to find?
I'm always astounded by how resilient tape can be, and what happens, because I put like sandpaper and knives and even fire to it sometimes, and it's so interesting how long like professional tape can stay before it passes, and what replaces it. There's this beautiful noise happening, so everything gets mellow, and in a way, what makes it interesting is it is like a memory. Tape is to me like an old memory that becomes fuzzy. It's not clear anymore. The more you try to remember it, the fuzzier it becomes, and that's why it has the very human aspect to me. I once did a play about a soundtrack for a play about a former spy in West Germany who was spying for the Soviets in the Bonner Republic times, and he was fading. He had Alzheimer's and his brain was slowly going, so the music had to have this kind of hazy, distant quality of someone just drifting and drifting and drifting, and tape was able to capture that wonderfully, this atmosphere.
Did you find
I still play like that ended up on my ambient tape album, and I still play. How did you find it though?
How did you find that tape? Was it something you came across through a job lot, this recording you were talking about?
No, that was not the tape I found. That was a play I had to score, and I scored the music by using like dictaphone tapes. I scored everything on that because that related to me to the process of someone losing everything, all the memories, everything going, until the only thing that's left is like the earliest memories, which are kind of hard-coded almost into you. But everything else just goes. It was a beautiful process.
Funny you mention memories, because like without meaning, like dreams seem to be, and also the supernatural is something that seems to come up a lot in tape, you know, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, we were talking about the horror tropes of magnetic tape, and I don't know, I guess there's horror tropes of any kind of of everything, but I think maybe it's something to do with the unseen. You can hold it in your hand and you don't know what you're going to hear.
You know, this found sound, getting a big box of tape off eBay and then going through it and just seeing what you find, and it can be memories. It's someone. I love that, and this comes back to the whole like music sharing thing, and tapes so enabling for artists because it gives you a means of recording your music and sharing it with people and getting it out there, avoiding Spotify and the rest of it. Share your music with your friends. So it's a great medium for that. But finding these tapes, I'd love to play that.
Yes, please. There's one that Jack already shared with us, which is pretty spine chilling. But we were talking about the sort of coincidence of or not knowing what you're going to hear. But I'll let you play it.
So I got this tape in a job lot, and it genuinely unnerves me. And I don't know what it means. It was on an expensive tape, the metal high-end ones, that you don't come across very often. Completely unlabeled, and it refers to the future. It's a hypnosis tape telling someone to remember a date in the future. So what does this mean? I don't know, but I'd just like to play it.
3, 2, 1. Eyes are getting heavier, John. Heavier and heavier. Can't keep on over, John. Very tired and sleepy. The whole body feels tired and sleepy. No need to worry or be nervous.
That's me, by the way.
Perfectly safe and still. Your body needs to relax. Your mind needs to relax. Tired and sleepy. Your mind will become hypnotized. Slowly and surely. Your mind will become hypnotized. It's not distressing. You can relax. Perfectly safe. Nothing is going to harm you. Push your mind forward, John. Push your mind to the date of the 22nd of September, 2047.
Yeah, and then it says remembering could be the key to unlocking all the questions. And I, at that point, like the hair every time. Does it refer to the singularity? Is this the Kali Yuga? I don't know. I like to. Why not make life into an interesting drama?
Is there any writing on it at all? Or?
No, nothing. The 22nd of September, 2047. So hopefully I'm still here by then. Like my sleepless nights from developing tape tech hasn't killed me by then. So let's see if we make it to the singularity. But yeah, these kind of snapshots into another world. And you're saying about making a tape loop and not always knowing what's on there. These experiences of giving yourself over to found sound and maybe listening more rather than trying to create sounds.
Yeah, the best thing I found in that was on a military wire recorder that was made in the Soviet Union and used by some organization in East Germany, probably in the 1970s. And there were two guys talking. It was radio traffic, and it was like, Achtung, Achtung, and you could hear the other one more faintly, and he would say, no, and it was 4 hours of that, 4 hours of recordings of that, and you can hear the guys like getting more tired, and at some point it was Kommando Sonnenschirm, which means commando umbrella. So it was like, okay, what does that mean? It's such a fascinating call back and forth. So it might have been like either like some observation that was going on, or it was like an army maneuver. I couldn't find out anything more, but it was these two guys from Saxony chatting over hours.
That's really rhythmical as well, because there'll be a normal structure to kind of radio contact.
Exactly. It always goes doot, in between doot.
And I felt like that hypnosis tape, the way that he slowly repeats himself, be calm, relax, be calm, relax. It almost has this element of
calm.
Steve Reich. It's like it was made for tape loops. So.
Have you got an instant Sama for like a kind of spooky or eerie, uncanny tape encounter?
Well, the museum, we got a lot of tape malarkey, a lot of answering machines. And it's not really scary. It's just like there's a lot of them where people have put them in the loft in about the 90s, and there's some of the stuff. There was one from like the mid 80s, and it was from a builder. It's like replying about a quote for an asbestos kitchen ceiling. We need to. Do you still want the asbestos kitchen ceiling? So it's, you know, you get a good kind of snapshot into that era.
I got some like that when buying, because I've been trying to get these micro cassettes, and this might feed back into the obsolescence stuff that you do. Trying to get the micro cassettes for this U-tape scrubber thing has been a nightmare. The first pack I bought in the UK off eBay had screws, and then after that I couldn't get any with screws. They all went to sealed ones. I think you had that problem. Eventually I found somewhere, and yeah, these were all used in Chinese answer phones. So they've, some of them have got the most bizarre stuff on them, you know, find them. But yeah, trying to get this stuff. But I love what you're doing with, you know, kind of curating and looking after these machines and stuff. I haven't got a chance to come down and have a look, but I'd love to hear a bit more about, like, yeah, what are you working on at the moment? Are you restoring anything? I saw the big multi-head tape loop machine.
Oh yeah, multi. There's another one after that. So right now there's a copycat.
Is that different to the Mega Cat?
Sorry?
Is that different to the Mega Cat?
Oh no, I think it's the same thing. Oh no, I think the Mega Cat's the next one. So this one's only got tape 16 recorders. It's quite cool actually. Like, it's a copycat but with 16 playheads. And then the thing is if you do that, you can have the outputs going to different speakers. So if you want, so that you think that the tape is moving in a lateral way, you can play the sound, and then it will come out of different speakers as you go along. I think that's quite a cool one. I'm making a bigger one around a big disky spinny one soon, in like the next couple of weeks.
A spatial audio element to it as well. Is it all routed to different speakers, did you say?
Oh, well, it can be, yeah. I mean, there's nothing stopping you plugging it into the jack sockets.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, I've only got up to the 5 speakers separately so far, but you can, in theory, plug it in every single tape bed into a speaker.
I really love the way that your two sort of design processes are so different. You knock down walls in order to build new stuff in the museum. Is that why I saw you?
Non-structural, I must add, only plasterboards, divider walls.
Because you don't put any size. It does. Well, I mean, maybe you do, but do you put size constraints on your designs? It seems like there's no holds barred.
Yeah, sometimes, but I don't know. I like building things a bit bigger because then they just look a little bit more grandiose. Because just to hide the fact that they're not very well built.
1,000 of everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And then you obviously got such strong constraints for yours.
Yeah. I'm constantly battling with fractions of millimeters, moving stuff around, trying to get it into 1U format. Interestingly, I've come to the conclusion with this 1U kind of tape machine that I'm trying to make a square a circle. You know, I should have just started with a circle. Trying to make it long, the length of it means that you've got more tight turns, more problems. Also, I'm working in the 1U space, so I had to find a motor that was a balance between torque and noise, and everything has been difficult, you know, to get it into that format. Now, I love what Hainbach said earlier about how forgiving tape is, and you know, working with reel-to-reels makes you realise how, oh yeah, there's a screw loose and... Go figure. But yeah, so now, and of course, if I want it to be commercially viable and something that can fund kind of my further research and keep me, you know, with a roof over my head, I've had to make it into a form where people actually want. So shrinking everything down to a micro tape cassette rather than a large standard format made a lot of sense. Now that has limitations in itself. The mechanisms aren't quite as robust. The flywheels aren't maybe as big. Yeah. It's 1/8 on those little micro cassettes. And you work a lot with longer loops, and slowing stuff down. But I'm going to go the other way. I want to make something like tape tech, you know, and it could be reverb tapes as well. You know, if we had a loop, those ones.
Smallest possible.
Yeah, because these are like 1 second, so I can get it to go round and match 160 BPM.
It will degrade a lot faster, won't it, as well? Yeah. I mean, you'll have a lot more of that kind of wow and flutter very soon if you've only got the tiniest little loop. But Jack, I'm very conscious
sorry, I'm
that...
going on and on and on.
No, it's perfect, and I wish we were here for hours. But we have 12 minutes left, and I think it would be really good to open it up to the audience. So, is there that fourth mic around somewhere? Can't see anything with the lights, but... Yeah, we could do. I don't know. Oh, who's here? Yeah, nice one. Perfect. Yeah, does anyone have any questions for the panel? I feel like we haven't really gone very far into the subject of obsolescence, so if anyone has any questions around.
No questions.
No questions? There's nothing? Yeah, here we go. Let's start warming up the crowd.
I was always interested in a...
Oh, is that mic on? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Oh, no, it is, yeah. I was always interested in a thing that Laurie Anderson did of putting tape on a violin bow, getting rid of the strings on the violin, and instead of an ordinary violin bridge, having a tape head. So you're actually playing the tape as you bow. And I wondered whether you'd experimented with doing that sort of thing, actually moving the tape by hand across the tape heads.
I make a tape wand inspired by Tom Whitwell. You know, like a lot of my experiences, everything I'm doing is built on other people's work, and we have no real ownership of this kind of stuff. So, you know, Tom shared that schematic, and that was great for me. And I made these tape wands. You can put them flat on a table, but that has problems where maybe you can't track the tape. Alignment is terrible. Even changing, interestingly, you can make a filter out of a replay circuit by fucking up the tilt. The high frequencies just drop off dramatically as soon as you start to go out. So to do that, what I've been doing is I take a tape head, I leave the guides on it now, and then I'm stringing tape between two places, and then just kind of scratching between it. And the sample pack that goes out at the moment is a collection of like BBC noise, different types of static and stuff from that great thing. So yeah, it is possible. I would like to get reel-to-reel heads. You know, if you can get full... Trying to find a full track quarter-inch head is near impossible. Those
Totally stopped making those now then.
yeah, and they weren't on a lot of tape machines anyway. They only went on some of the Ewers, the 6000, and things like the Nagra. You know, because everything else is stereo. So that is what you really want. So we're limited, yeah.
But how do you feel? Sorry.
Practically, like surely maybe using a coil, like an inductor, as a tape head to record onto a tape, so it's wideband, so it ends up recording the signal on the whole thing. Would that
I think, like just like me trying to do this tape head myself, what we'll notice is there's a reason why. I mean, the manufacturing, the tape head gaps where they got down to microns, you know, it's literally a millimetre in mine. It's going to be, so I think it'll be interesting to see what the response is. Maybe you can do something with the pre-EQ and, you know, afterwards to level it all out. But I think there's going to be severe like losses in different frequencies trying to do it that way. But that could be interesting itself. The way you play it could then act like a filter. So I dig your idea, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we don't know what the time is now. Oh, no, we do. Do we have any more questions? We do, over here. Is anyone got the mic? Oh, yeah. Nice one.
Yeah, I'm just going to add to that conversation because, Jack, I've been in conversation with you about putting an Nagra head on your wand.
Yeah, I still haven't got round to doing mine.
I have the Nagra head here today. So we have got a mono Nagra head. Unfortunately, it's got the guides on. And
I know. Did you manage to get the guy to take these off?
No, but I've got another one which the guy's working on. But
I'll show you that today. Yeah. So anyway, this is like rocking all shit, and it's off a Nagra. Then because it can fix a Nagra, the value of it is insane. You know, insane for what it is. I would love to be able to make these as the ones to give out, and it would be then more possible to kind of do this manual manipulation. I've seen other people doing mad stuff with, you know, barcodes as well for, you know, manually playing. So maybe having it loose isn't practically that advantageous. But I think in terms of scratching and playing tape with a guide, possible. Only possible to do it loose with this quarter-inch. Whole band of the quarter-inch.
Yeah, so that's all mono one way. Yeah, which is what I was looking for. And that has actually got guides on. I've got another one that I want to chop the guides off to make it more free-flowing. Unfortunately, I haven't got a Nagra machine, Hainbach, but I've got a guy...
Won't get mine.
Yeah.
Do you think would this have been scavenged out of an old Nagra then?
Yeah, so I got it from Germany. I got it on eBay from Germany. And to be fair, it's not the 4.2. I can't remember what machine it was off, but it is the mono. But the 4.2s were sort of going for something like 80...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might actually be in all honesty, it might even be worth just leaving the guides on. I'll make mine and we'll do a couple of videos and have a chat about it because it might be worth just keeping it, because with the guides on, stringing the 1/4 inch across and playing it that way, because you also get the tension then, which gives the force onto the head to impart the signal. You'd be amazed how much loss there is trying to do it in this format and only having a little tension, and the difference a couple of millimeters will make between it working and not. Especially when I went to this bloody jewel head, it doesn't have a good wrap around it, so that's why inside your tape cassettes you have those little felt strips with a bit of copper. It needs good tension and pressure against the head.
What do you all feel about scavenging these parts from very beautifully engineered machines? Do you feel like it's important to sort of keep some of these intact?
Definitely.
He's got the nice gear.
You got to save the Nagras though.
Got the nice gear. Do you want to talk about that? Sorry.
About my stash of Nagras?
Yeah.
I mean, I require them for my live work, and I record my records on them. I do field recordings with them, so which is very stupid, I found, because it's fun, but it's very heavy. I've even running them from like a power bank, so you don't have like 12 D cells, which are but I literally went to the beach with my Zeppelin. That sounds very strange if a German goes to the beach with a Zeppelin. Not your beach. I left your beaches alone. Oh no, I didn't. But it didn't come with my Zeppelin. Only with the Nagra. And I recorded, did field recordings there, and it was absolutely lovely and magical. But then I discovered a bug in the Nagra. I can go this nerdy. It's in the 4S. So there is, if you record with a 48 volt phantom power condenser mics, and then you pitch it down, you're gonna hear a 10 kilohertz tone.
I found this with bias signals. So there's so much range in my tape machine. Bias signal, unless I put it at 100 kilohertz, becomes audible.
But that's with so that was so. The moment of beauty that I'd hoped for. I record these beautiful. I was recording in an Aeolian harp in the dunes, wonderful. And then just waiting for the moment where I'm like pitching it down and it's gonna sound fantastic. And I mean, I could filter it out, but that magic moment was kind of lost. And then my tech went wild and tried to figure out a way to, because it was something from the 48 volt leaking into the signal, but because it was in the 20 kilohertz range, nobody cared about it. So I was like, that's good enough. We don't need to pitch it down. Why would you want to pitch down? This is for serious recording only. Not
so much going on beyond our senses. There's a great moody tune, blues tune or album that starts. It's like called "In Search of the Lost Chord," and it's so psychedelic 60s. But if you haven't heard it, check it out, because it just talks about, it's this wonderfully English poem, about what beauty is to be seen outside of the visible spectrum. So and those, but in some cases not. It might be a horrible oscillation that was hidden deep within the circuits.
Any more questions for the panel? I don't see anything. Oh, there's one at the back here.
Hi, hello.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I have a question for the whole panel. We've been talking about a lot of the more expensive tape loops or tape machines. What can you recommend for beginners? If there's people here that just want to start out and begin, what's like tips?
Cheap tape machine? Sony TC366 and 377. Those you usually find super cheap, wonderful, reliable. If you fix them up, I have 3, 2 of them. One exploded, but it's fine. And but I use these in the theater. So in my theater, I had like 3 of them in a theater play, and the actors, they would record, and then they would play their text. So it's sort of like a Crab's Last Tape, but interactive, and you could hear like long tape loops play with their voices. Was wonderful. But these machines can stand that, and Sony TC366, 377. I never paid more than $100 for one, and they're plentiful. made in the thousands, tens of thousands, good machines.
I think there's another question that we need to ask is which ones to avoid, because like there's...
Oh my God, we know which one, don't we? Yeah, we know which one. Yeah, so me and Jazz Jazz has this term, and also Marco at the shop, it's quite a funny one. There's like bad goods, there's bad goods, and then there's just bad. And these Bush handheld tape machines, just like, what on earth happened at the factory? I don't know. I've even been getting boards for, tape recorder boards when I started from China, and there's all this stuff on there, but it's not going. The signal path doesn't even go through it. We're being sold absolute crap. Everything was taken from being wider tapes, faster, less tracks, to more tracks turned into stereo, thinner, slower, poorer material. So your standard Walkman, if you go and try and buy one now, or even a shoebox tape machine, you're just going to be sold crap. So it's worth spending a little bit more and getting something like Hainbach's, the bottom end of it's crap. But then there are some that have interesting qualities because they're so lo-fi. I do a looper that I've modified to hell, put like manual erasers in and all sorts of circuits.
So you're putting your own sound circuitry in there?
Yeah.
But Jack, what do you mean that the signal path was not going?
Literally wasn't.
Is it like Oxbow Lake?
Yeah. They put a bloody chip in for it's like a Toshiba chip. And Sanyo and Toshiba developed loads of ICs, just plug-in datasheet stuff, and it was on the board. But it wasn't being used for the record circuit. It was only being used for the playback. They'd had an AC bias on there, but they were mixing it passively with the audio input. I was like, why?
I've actually got a quick question before I forget. What circuit would you recommend? A nice, quick and simple one for the record head.
So I'm going to be doing this. That's great. I spoke to Steve yesterday. My background originally was DIY. Haven't got to do it, but I want to release a modular DIY tape machine. The idea being you have a separate record, playback, you can still use Tom's magnetophone, and then a transport that with just a connection direct to the head. So anyone who's got those replay amplifiers at the moment can just start playing stuff back. For a record, interestingly, like the WEM Copycat used just a standard op amp, TL072, but in order to impart a strong magnetic field, because you've got an inductor effectively, it's not about voltage, it's about current. So what you need, the kit will be based around a 1 watt speaker amplifier, LM386.
LM386. So
genuinely.
Just, whack out on a LM386. So just use a speaker amp and plug it straight into the recorder.
That will sound dirty as fuck, and that'll sound a bit like the tape machines were being sold as shoebox ones. The ones that are only meant as like dictaphone for secretaries, recording vocal stuff. So in order to linearize the recording process, and that's why reel-to-reel sound so good, is that you effectively have a carrier and a modulator. You have this high-frequency signal. Yeah. So what you need to do is create a high-frequency sine wave above audio rate, above 30-volt peak-to-peak, and then you need to mix it with your audio signal. But the trick is, you can, of course, it's 30-volt peak-to-peak. You can't use op amps for that. So you have to find a way. You've got to mix that passively. So look into tank circuits. You make a capacitor and a thing that resonate at the frequency of your bias signal, and then you can stop it from loading the record amplifier. There you go. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
That's like been the last 2 years of my life trying to perfect that, and I can't believe it came out in a sentence.
Well, I know that the panel have lots of other stuff to be getting on with. There's going to be performances, more talks in You're doing a talk in half an hour again? Yeah? Ooh. Oh, should we just quickly go around and say what everyone else is doing today, so if people pique their interest, that would be a good thing.
Yeah, I'll be revealing a new module that I made together with Joanalog in half an hour over at the DivKit stage. And then I'll be playing there live, and then Sam is playing, and...
I think you're on a 5, and then we're finishing it all at... Oh, no, I've got the... don't listen to me.
Yeah, no, but I'll also be joining... we're also going to do a bit of Rotopops together again.
Nice.
So I probably should stay by my booth all day and demo stuff, but I'm actually going to go and I want to go and see a couple of things today.
Okay,
So I want to see Surgeon, 9 o'clock. Everyone be there. But I want to actually try not to get overloaded today. It's a bit much sometimes trying to do this. But,
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
So if you want to come and have a chat, great. But for checking out my gear, generally, like sometimes I think maybe my YouTube video is better because in this environment it's quite stressful.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Can everyone, thank the panel, and thanks very much for being here as well.